नमो बुद्धाय 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 नमो.
You know, over in Perth, Australia, where I live, there was a story of one of the school kids, one of the mothers was always having a very difficult time to get her son to get up early enough to go to school in the morning. Can you hear this okay? Okay. So she had to go into her son's bedroom and wake him up, saying, "Son, it's time to go to school." But the son said, "But Mummy, I don't want to go to school this morning." And the mother said, "But you have to go to school, son." "Why should I go to school, Mummy? The teachers don't like me. The children don't like me. I don't like going to school. Why should I go to school? If you can give me one good reason to go to school, Mummy, then I will go." "Okay," said Mummy, "that the reason to go to school is because you are the principal of that school." Do you think that your teachers like to go to school in the morning? Of course, sometimes they prefer to take a rest, but sometimes this is just what we have to do. So that's one of the reasons why. And other times, do you know the purpose of going to school? That sometimes the kids feel, "Oh, there's no point to going to school." But I'll tell you one of those reasons. I am a forest monk, which means that for my whole life I've lived in forest monasteries. And many of those years I lived my life in the monasteries over in the forests of the northeast of Thailand, which was a very, very, very poor area. And when I was living in those forests, sometimes, actually every time we'd go on arms round in the morning for food, we'd actually accept whatever was given to us. On this one day, very poor time of the year, and all we got to eat for one meal of the day was a ball of glutinous rice. We used to call it sticky rice. You know the rice I mean? A lot of times people use those to make sweets, but in Thailand they used to use it for the basic part of the meal, just sticky rice. They always have something to go with it. And this morning, the only thing we had to eat with our sticky rice was a boiled frog. That's what we ate that morning, frog on rice. Have you ever had that? Would you like to have that to eat? Frog on rice. And the frog was not fried. It had no seasoning with it. It was just boiled frog. No salt, no chili, no garlic, nothing. Just boiled frog. Now, one of the reasons I like telling this story is that when I was at school, I always remembered to study biology and always remembered how important it was to understand how beings worked. So when I started having my one meal of the day, sticky rice with boiled frog on the top, at least I knew one part of a frog from another. So when I started picking at its inside, you need to eat the insides as well as everything else. When I started eating inside, I knew what to eat, what not to eat. The monk sitting next to me, he didn't study hard at school. And this is what happens when you don't study hard. He pressed one of the organs of the frog. He didn't know which one it was. And that organ of the frog was called the bladder. And what purpose is a bladder on any animal? One of the things which it stores is the urine. And when he touched and pressed that bladder, that frog, it urinated all over his rice. I had the same type of frog, but I never pressed that because I studied and paid attention at school. And it doesn't matter how hungry you are, after you see the frog which is on top of your sticky rice, you can't eat anymore that day. So that's one of the benefits of learning at school. At least you understand what part needs to be, what part can be eaten and what part can't be. Do you all enjoy your school? You better say yes, because your teachers are here and they may be watching. I was a school teacher for 1 year. And when I was a school teacher, one of the things I did was to try and make teaching interesting and joyful, fun. For example, what is my nickname here in Sri Lanka? What do they call me? Smiling white monk. Why am I like that? And I'll tell you one reason. That once I got to university, that I started getting interested in Buddhism and especially meditation. And my teacher at that time at university, the Buddhist teacher, he told me this question: what is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? What do you do when you get out of bed? And I said, "Sir, I go to the toilet." And he said, "Very good. But in the washroom, in the toilet, is there a mirror?" I said, "Yes, there's a mirror there." And so he told me what to do. He said, once you've been in the toilet and you wash your hand, look at your face in the mirror. And I told him, said, "Sir, I'm a young man, I don't sleep enough. I probably just would be afraid to see my face in the mirror at that time of the morning." I go, "Ah!" And he said, "No, look at your face in the mirror and get your 2 fingers. Okay, everybody, can you have your 2 fingers up? Put them on the side of your mouth and push up." Try that in the morning. Make a face at yourself in the mirror. And if you make a face at yourself in the mirror like that, you'll end up laughing at yourself. And honestly, I did that for 2 years. For 2 years, I never missed the morning, getting up in the morning and looking at my face in the mirror and first going, "Ugh," and next putting my 2 fingers up, pushing up and smiling at my face. After 2 years, my smile got kind of stuck up there. And I haven't lost it in all those years. And that's beautiful. It's the thing of giving yourself some loving kindness, some metta, unconditional loving kindness. So you start the day off with some happiness. And it also means it's much easier when you're at school to learn. So much easier when you're happy. If you are miserable, it's really hard to study. The mind gets what we call depressed. Have you ever been depressed? You know, once in my class, you know what subject I taught? Math. And I really tried hard to make maths interesting by telling the children I taught some trick questions. This is the first trick question. So this may think you are not going to school today because it's a Sunday, but I'm going to ask you a math question. Listen very carefully. 26 sheep in a field. 10 die. How many survive? Do you want to get out your computer? 26 sheep in a field, 10 die. How many survive? Who thinks the answer is 16? You'd all failed my math class. That's the wrong answer. Any other suggestions? Well, actually, the answer is 10. 26 sheep in a field, 10 die, only 10 survive. Do you understand? No, you don't. I'll say it slowly. A lot of times it's important for us to listen carefully. 20 sick sheep in a field. That's why they died. They were sick. 20 sick sheep in a field, 10 of them die. That leaves 10 surviving. You understand now? I know that sometimes people tell me that, Ajahn Brahm, you don't teach Dhamma in the usual way. And I say, I teach Dhamma in the traditional Sri Lankan way. Don't you remember when the Arahat Mahinda landed on Mahintale, and the first person he taught was King Dewanampiyatis, and he only taught him once he asked him a riddle. Fortunately, the king got that riddle correct. You all got it wrong, so I think I better fly back to Australia. No, of course not. But anyhow, when you are at school, when you are learning, sometimes some kids get depressed. And there's one of the kids in my math class got depressed. It was a class of 30 children I was teaching. And when I gave out the end of the year results, one of those children came bottom of the class. And of course, someone has to come bottom. Even if every child in your class was a relation to Albert Einstein, still one of them has to come the bottom of the class, even though they're all going to get PhDs later on in their life. Nevertheless, there's always one has to come bottom. When I gave out the results and looked at his face, he was quite happy before he got the results of the exam, but afterwards his face drooped, his shoulders dropped. It's a sign he was getting depressed. And I didn't need to be a monk at that time, I was still a layperson, to understand how he was feeling. He came bottom of the class. When he went home, he'd have to show the report to his parents, and his parents would be very upset and angry at him. When the other children in the class saw he'd come bottom, they would always call him and tease him, "You're a dummy, stupid," or whatever else nasty words they said. So you could see him getting more and more depressed. And even then, I was a Buddhist, they knew I was a Buddhist. And so, I needed to come and help him. I can't stand when one of my kids is getting depressed. So I went up to him and I said, "You come bottom of the class." He said, "Oh yes, sir, sorry." And I said, "What are you saying sorry for?" I said, "Well done." I praised him for coming bottom of the class. Has anybody ever explain to you that when you get grades A, B, C, D, E or F, what do those letters mean? And I say A, if you ever got an A at class, A stands for arrogant. What does F stand for? Fantastic. If you get an F at school, say fantastic. E, excellent. D, delightful. C, clever. B, no, not so bright. I turn it around because does an exam result define who you are? And of course not, that's you just had a bad day that time. But for this kid who came bottom of the class, I told him, I know that you are much more clever than this. I know you could have done so much better. So in my opinion, I think that you've come bottom of the class on purpose, out of compassion for all the other children in the class, out of kindness and care for them, so you don't have to endure, so they don't have to endure what you're going to get from your mum and dad this evening. So you don't have to take on the role of being bottom of the class. And you know, in Mahayana Buddhism, if somebody takes on suffering, they endure what other people would endure, but they take that on for themselves. They take on the pain and the humiliation deliberately, like some of the stories you read about the Buddha before his last life. If you do things like that, they call you in Mahayana Buddhism the Bodhisattva. So I said to this kid who knew I was a Buddhist, I said, I know you did this on purpose, taking on the bottom position at class, so I'm going to go to the principal's office straight after this class, and I'm going to recommend you for the Bodhisattva of the Year award in this school. So if anybody of you in your class get bottom of the class, please remember you're just doing that out of kindness to all your friends in the same class, so you don't have to endure what, also they don't have to endure what you're going to get this evening. Do you understand? So how many of you came bottom of the class last year? How many of you deserve a prize? How many of you came top of the class? How many of you understand what I'm talking about? This is one of the things a Buddhist monk does. We turn things around. Just because you become bottom of the class, it does not mean you're inferior. No way. It's just what you believe you are. So you can, look, how many, did Albert Einstein finish his degree at university? No. What other multimillionaires or multi-billionaires never finished their degree? A huge number. Steve Jobs, he never completed his degree at university. Mark Zuckerberg, he never finished his degree. And they're billionaires. So does it really mean that you're no good if you don't get a degree or don't do well at school? Does it? There are many, many, many successful people, wise people, what we call emotionally intelligent people. And they're the ones I hope each one of you become. The intelligence at school and university are good, but much better than that is the emotional happiness, the emotional intelligence. where you can feel how you are, and you know how to be happy, where you can learn the tricks of competing to the highest level when you want to, without stressing yourself out. How many of you follow cricket? Only one. What about all you kids? Don't you follow cricket? I'm running out of time already. Okay. What happens if I don't stop at 7:55? Will I get put in detention? Okay. So, how many of you follow cricket? How many of the kids, not the teachers, follow cricket? You know what I used to do when I was at school? This is a school boy. Now, I'm getting quite old now. And so we used to have little transistor radios. And the transistor radios, we could put them in our pockets so the teacher couldn't see them. And up our sleeves, that's where we would put the microphone. So we're listening to the teacher. That's what he thought. But really, we were listening to the cricket. The only trouble was when your team hit a six, or the team, they bowl somebody out, you'd forget to be quiet, and you go, yeah, wicket! And that's how the teacher would catch you. So I'm giving some advice for you as the next teacher, next naughty schoolboy, how to avoid doing stupid things and getting into trouble. But you know, I always followed cricket when I was young and at university, and also that later on I knew what cricket was and how important it was to people. So there was a time in, what was it again, 1980? When did Sri Lanka win the World Cup cricket? 19, what the kids, this is the kids session. So for the kids, when did you win the World Cup cricket? You don't know. What do they teach you at school? But anyway, who did you beat? What country's cricket team did you beat to win the World Cup cricket final? Which team? You've got very soft voices. Which team? Yes. And you know, how did you manage to win that match? About a month or two before, you were playing a qualifying match against Australia in Perth. That's my hometown. And at the the lunch break, that's when 3 or 4 of the boys, from Perth, who were watching the game and helping out, they were asked by the team, are there any good Buddhist monks in the area? We need something to help us. We're doing terribly. So they came to see me. And so I made them 12 pieces of pirit thread. You know what pirit thread is? Any of you got some on your wrist? Yeah, a few of you have. So I gave them 12 pieces of pirit thread. Why 12? 12 for the 12th man. I know my cricket. And I gave them to them. I never knew what would happen next until a couple of months later I saw in the front page of our local newspaper the captain of the Sri Lankan cricket team, Arjuna Ranatunga. Do you know him? He was the captain of the team who beat Australia and won the World Cup cricket. He had the cup above his head. You know what I saw on his wrist? I recognise that. That was the thread, the pirit thread, an Australian monk gave to him. And I always say that is why the Sri Lanka beat the Australians at cricket that year. And I never confessed that for a long time, because the Australians love their cricket too. They would have deported me from the country or something. But nevertheless, this is what motivates people. And it just shows that sometimes all these traditions which you have here in Sri Lanka are so powerful. And with those traditions, it's amazing how many tournaments you can win, and how many great understandings of whether maths or physics or any type of science, how that makes it much easier for you to do well at school. Not just learning how to pass exams, but to really understand those subjects. How many of you get worried about exam time? Okay, please, is that going to help? If we hand down, is that going to help you to do well? No. How I did well, first of all, I'm going to get into trouble with your parents maybe. Maybe they may not invite me next year here, but this is true. I was very good at maths, O-levels and A-levels, and university as well. And sometimes I was doing my math homework and listening to the loud music. I used to like rock music as a young man. Now, I'm 73 now, 74 soon. And because I was listening to loud music, my father would catch me. He said, "You're supposed to be doing your homework. Instead, you're listening to music." And I said, "I'm doing the homework at the same time." Can you do that? To do homework and also listen to loud music? My father said, "Turn the music off." You know what I did? I took out my latest scores and results, at school. It was always 100%, 10 out of 10, top marks. And I said, "Look, it works. I'm getting top marks at school." And I was. And so my father couldn't argue with me anymore. And I could listen to loud music as long as I still did all the homework and excelled at it. So each one of you, I don't know what you like looking at or listening to, make sure your results are top. And then you have so many privileges in life. Do you understand? And one of the last things about passing exams. You know how I learned how to pass exams? Through meditation, not through worrying. So instead, these are the last exams which I did at university. They called them the final exams. And those exams at Cambridge in 1972, in natural sciences, and I was studying theoretical physics. And so it started off with a 3-hour exam, a 3-hour paper, in the morning, on a Monday, an hour for lunch, 3-hour in the afternoon, for another paper. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and even Saturday too. 6 days in a row, morning and afternoon, exams. So after the morning exam on something easy like quantum mechanics, I had an hour for lunch. I never had any lunch. I had a big breakfast in the morning and a big dinner in the evening. I wasn't a monk yet. And lunchtime, what I did was go to my room and meditate. Sat down on a cushion. And the first thought which came into my mind was the morning exam. Did I answer the questions correctly? Have ever you worried about that, an exam you did yesterday, and worried if it was a good result or a bad result? That really is stupid. You can't change the exam now. Good or bad, it's done, it's finished with. And also, I knew that I had to rest so that I could focus on the afternoon exam. The afternoon exam was something like astrophysics of the galaxy. I remember that course at Cambridge because that was taught by Professor Stephen Hawking's teacher, Professor Sharma. That was really fascinating stuff. You know, one of the experts in that area, what this galaxy is like. But I was going to do an exam on that in the afternoon. 3-hour exam on astrophysics of the galaxy. And of course, you just did an exam in the morning. I was tired, almost exhausted. So when I realized the best way to prepare for the future is to not worry about it. It's one of the Buddhist sayings, your future is being made right now. Not in the future. The future is made by how you practice rest, relaxation, mindfulness right in this moment. At least I knew that enough to let go of worrying about the future and stay in the moment. When I stayed in the moment, the next thing which I noticed, I was shaking. I was nervous. And the reason I was nervous, obviously, because I was worried about the future. And I hadn't been noticing the present at all. And so because of that I was still wearing away the energy which I had. As soon as I focused, I could let go of the mind worrying. And the body stopped shaking. And the last thing I noticed was how tired my brain was. And I mentioned that, how tired the brain becomes. It felt like, have you ever had a pot of tea and then you try and put some water in it again to see if you can get some more energy out of it? My brain felt like a tea bag or a teapot which had been used about 2 or 3 times, had just no oomph left in it. I was tired, exhausted. So what I did, I learned how to relax to the max. And then it's fascinating how the mind re-energized. And when I came out of meditation, just after half an hour, my mind was bright, clear, energized. And that's the mind I took in to the afternoon exams. That is how these things work. That's how I've taught at many schools in Australia how to pass exams with very little effort, and how to relax deeply. So this is for each one of you, a little gift from an Australian monk. I can't give you any pirate thread anymore. Otherwise I won't get let back into Australia when I arrive. But what I can do is teach you the wisdom so that school becomes very easy, good fun. And also you do very, very well, whatever subject you want to do. I asked this, I think, yesterday. How many people in Sri Lanka have got a Nobel laureate? You know what a Nobel laureate is? That's when you break new ground in all these amazing subjects. You have the brains. I've seen that. You just don't know how to use them. If you get a Nobel laureate, the whole country will be so proud of you. Why not? So please, all the kids here, don't ever think that you can't do this. Of course you can do that. And see what happens for you. Be inspired, be happy, and be smart. Again, it's just gone past 5:02, so I'm supposed to go now to, is it a second? Am I supposed to go now? I've got another lesson. But first of all, was that interesting for you? Is that what you expected? Have you lost your voice? Imagine what it's like for me sitting up here, watching each one of you. I really am trying my best to connect with each one of you and to show each one of you don't need to have any emotional problems in life. Enjoy and use what you know about Buddhism or whatever to actually to create a better world, a better school, and a better life for yourself. Okay? I think I better go now, otherwise I'm going to drag me further. So thank you for listening. What do you say at the end of a talk? That's all. In Australia, I teach everybody at the end of a talk, you put your hands up and you say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu with everything you've got. Sadhu. 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 Okay, now do it by yourself. Come on. Sadhu. Is that more interesting and fun than just going sadhu, sadhu, sadhu? This is where you put joy into your life. This is why you can know like the great Sri Lankan cricketers of old, that you can do really, really well. You see that ball coming and you hit it as hard as you can. Why not? So anyhow, I better behave now and go to the next place I'm supposed to be sitting. Excellent. So I'll still be giving the talks, but on the screen. You saw me live, first of all. And I should actually also tell you about the Lady Gaga story. You know who Lady Gaga is? Okay, it'll only be 1 minute. I give a talk in so many different countries. Once I was giving a talk in the town of Medan in Sumatra, part of Indonesia. And at the same time, the Lady Gaga was supposed to be giving a talk in Jakarta the same evening. And that because the police said you must do this, they had to sell little tickets to come to my talk. Very cheap, only like 50, worth of a couple of pennies. They had to do that just so that's the only way they could register people. Because the year before, I had caused a traffic jam. And the police in that area said, you have to have tickets, so at least we have to know who's actually going to go to that talk. And apparently, my tickets, about 3,000 people, my tickets sold out in 20 minutes. Lady Gaga's tickets took 40 minutes to sell out. So they said, obviously, Ajahn Brahm is more famous than Lady Gaga. You think that's true? This hall is full. You think Lady Gaga could fill the hall today? Anyway, I'll let you decide. And I better behave now. Let's go. Thank you for listening.